former ADGP of Maharashtra, joining us on the phone line. Mr. Jain, this is shocking. India Today has captured this movement of the Wadhawan brothers all on cameras. The kind of luxurious lives that the brothers are living, despite being behind bars, serving jail term for this financial fraud that they've carried out. But they have the money. They're pulling off a luxurious life in cahoots with the jail officials. What could you say of this?
Namaskar. Thank you so much for calling me here. It is not only the money, it is also the political backing, because sometime back, if you remember, these guys were, during the COVID days, they were also traveling to Lonavala and some other places in Maharashtra. So it is, they are misusing their position. This thing should be brought to the notice of the court, number one, and future visits to the hospital and any other place are restricted. And secondly, the policemen who have been asked this responsibility and who allow them these luxuries should also be punished as per the departmental inquiry rules. It's unfortunate that, some people are bought by money and some people get influenced by the political influence that such people carry. The kind of money that they have looted from the system and the number of people who have come to grief because of their activities is absolutely shocking. So that's the only thing I have to say at this stage.
And this is not the first instance, Mr. Jain, that we see a crime of this nature while they're already serving jail term and then they pull off such luxurious lives on the parallel. But what I'm surprised here is that the jail authorities, knowing very well that these are the kind of people who usually commit such crimes. We know what happened with Sukesh Chandrasekhar, that iconic con man. He carried out his entire business inside jail. And while the authorities are keeping a hawk eye, jail officials still pull off this in exchange of money. So who is really to blame?
The blame lies on all the officers, the supervisory as well as the cutting-edge level officers, because the very fact there are people, poor people, who cannot afford this kind of appearance in the who cannot afford this kind of a treatment in the hospitals, or are not even produced in the courts for months together. And there are people like Wadhawan who misuse the system, who buy out the entire system, and they not only get lodged in the hospital, they make frequent visits to the court and carry out their activities with impunity, with the connivance of the police officers as well as the jail authorities. Both are to blame, the escort party as well as the people who send them out so often to the court. And the court also to a measure, because the number of people, poor people, are not even summoned once. And people like Wadhawan are summoned to the court repeatedly. Every month you will find an appearance in the court. And during these visits to the court, they meet all kind of people, they carry out their business activities. And first of all, their entire property should be seized. They should not be allowed to use the proceeds of crime. That's the most unfortunate part. With the same money which they have looted from the system, they are misusing they use that money to misuse the system again. So the money should be taken away. They should not be allowed to use that kind of a money. If the onus lies on the court as well as the investigating officer as well as the authority which has attached their assets. So all these things taken together only can probably put some dent into their kind of influence.
They've been requesting to be moved from Tajola jail to a central jail in Mumbai. Their pleas were quashed. So many attempts for them to be moved around. In fact, they wanted a transfer to the Athar Road jail, but that was squashed. They're still in the Taloja jail, and yet they managed to somehow book all the jail officials, bribe them, and get away with whatever they want. They're seeing very comfortably, meeting with family members, all their luxurious cars lined up at hospitals, carrying out their documentation, having a nice cup of coffee. It doesn't even seem like they're prisoners.
They are in the hospital, they are as good as any other patient. It is impossible to, get them chained to the bed. So they move around, and there's only one or two guys in the hospital. They are given a special ward. So the hospital authorities, number one, to keep them in the hospital, they are paid off. Number two, to provide them the facilities of a separate ward, a separate room, etc. All those things are managed. And then the escort staff is managed. So, you see, in the chain, everybody's palms are greased to afford them these kind of luxuries that they enjoy in the jail, in the hospital, and within the system, even appearing in the courts. It's a very unfortunate part. I think everybody, all the senior officers have to look at this If you remember, sometime back during the COVID days, they were allowed to travel to, Mahabaleshwar. They were going to Mahabaleshwar at that time. So they were allowed to go there when a common man could not even get a pass to attend to his near and dear ones if there was an emergency in the family. They were not even given a pass. These guys were given the authority to move in a car when they were actually accused of such a big, loot of the system. So it is unfortunate. I mean, the only thing is that exposures like yours, put a little spotlight on them, and then the nuts are and screws are tightened for a few days, and the life is back to normal after maybe another few weeks.
A quick word, Mr. Jain, as we see that this is, of course, a massive fraud that they've carried out, nearly 34,000 crores that they've pulled off the system, cheating a consortium of 17 odd banks. Now, when it comes to financial fraud, is it treated a little lightly in compared to heinous crimes like murder?
It is certainly treated lightly because, murders are the kind of things which sensationalize the whole system. Whereas the financial fraud, people have learned to take them with a pinch of salt. I mean, they don't look at them that seriously. Even when we hear the news of people committing suicide because they could not get their hard-earned money from the bank, we don't give it that kind of, importance. So, unfortunately, the white-collar crime is always swept under the carpet vis-a-vis the violent crime. So, murders will always get the kind of sensational angle to it as against. Because financial frauds are happening a dozen a dime. There are so many frauds which are taking place, and the people go abroad, they use their money. The people like Malayas, they can afford to stay. The people like Choksis, they can afford to stay in UK. With all the badly earned or ill-earned money they have at their disposal, and they enjoy life. Whereas a poor man, he loses his money, he loses his life, he loses his dream. He's left to fend for himself. The banks are de-recognized by the RBI. When the recession should have been taken at the right time, that is not done. So there are so many angles to it. But in this particular case, I would say that it should be made an example. But it is not. The politicians, they spend time in the hospital. The businessmen, the people, moneyed people, they spend time in the hospital. See, recently, Amar Mani Tripathi spent 8.5 years in hospital. Can you believe it? A guy who's convicted for murder, he spends 8.5 years in hospital. I mean, it's shocking. And what kind of a supervision do we have from the courts and the senior officers? One fails to understand.
Absolutely. Mr. Jain, thank you very much. It was very informative. Of course, brazen violation of the law, no regard for the law, absolutely. They're prisoners. They've pulled off one of the biggest scams, financial frauds in the country, nearly 36,000 crores, I believe. And these men they managed to actually bribe those officials and live a parallel luxurious life right in prison. They're at the hospital for checks. They're moving around, meeting with family members, moving around in luxury cars, going about their business as normal.